Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do. So big picture, let's go back to this as we did in the first one, right? What are the main goals of in-season, right? Number one, most people at the competitive level are trying to hit their routines, and they're trying to have a really, really high potential meet. They're trying to do the best possible job they can do to hit their 4 or their 6 routines based on artistic, or hit their trampoline, their tumbling routines, whatever it should be, rhythmic. They're trying to really have great meets. They're trying to reach their highest potential and do all of the hard work that they've been having over the summer or the preseason, have that show off. For some people, they want, to get a good score, to get an all-around score, to make a team, to make it to states, regionals, nationals, get a college scholarship, make a national team. Other people just want to perform. They just want to show off. They just want to have fun. They just want to show the things they've been working on. So regardless of whether it's like you're really hardcore in the competitive side, or you're just more recreational and doing this for fun, both of these things kind of come together here, okay? So number two, absolutely important. We must maximize as much as we possibly can athlete health and wellness throughout this competitive year, right? Anyone who is involved in gymnastics knows that the competitive season can be very, very brutal on athletes, right? About 5 to 6 months. That's really, really challenging. You have school, you have family life, you're trying to juggle your other commitments. Like, it is very, very taxing physically, mentally, and emotionally on the athletes. So as we are trying to compete at our best, another way to make sure we maintain that high level of competitive edge and that high level of competitive potential is by making sure athletes are well, right? Making sure they're physically and mentally and emotionally taken care of. And that is what we're going to think about with terms of how we make our workouts, how we program, why we're doing certain exercises, but also some of the other things we're working on around just the training environment to really make sure that someone's mentally and emotionally ready to compete. They can handle the pressure of those meet situations. They feel comfortable. They feel like they're recovering well from those meets because they're very, very challenging on their body. Okay, number three, I think the main reason a lot of us kind of want to get in here, right, is to have a good time and reach their goals. So maybe they have some goals they've set, and we'll talk about those. Maybe they have some goals that they're reaching for. We want to make sure we have a specific plan that's broken down into smaller segments to help them reach those goals. If we never plan for those goals, we never talk about those goals, we never talk about have those goals changed, it can go off the rails pretty quick. So these big three things are kind of our buckets we're looking at. Okay, one thing I really like to do here is doing short bursted interval work. Okay, so the way I like this is versus like the long interval work we did in the preseason, which was 60 to 90 seconds, an absolute slog of a workout where we're not really worried about, doing 2 or 3 routines or competing in a meet, so we can afford to be a little tired. But this situation is try to go really, really explosive, really, really fast on a short interval, so that max effort is the goal, right? So we're going to do these in low to moderate volume, but very, very, very high intensity, because we don't want to add too much extra impact on their body, like their shins or their back, right? So we want to pick exercises that are very safe to do, just like we did in the preseason, but they really demand a lot of your body, right? So the sleds and some of the jumps and the runs and stuff, gymnastic specific exercises work well here too. We want to pick things that are really going to be beneficial, that are going to be very, very challenging, but we're not going to add too much junk mileage onto somebody. Okay, so here's an example of one that I really like doing in season that seems to maintain a high degree of intensity, but it really works on these intervals so that they can understand how to control themselves. All in all, this workout might take you 15 minutes, right? 15 to 20 minutes, but it's very, very intentional. There's not just running for the sake of running or panel mats for the sake of just doing plyos, okay? So you'll see an example here of someone doing this. So you can see down on the floor, there's these plates that they're jumping. So they would do their plate hops here. So 10 plate hops. And you can see how we organize this in a group. And then they would come down, they would do their 5, this is jumping lunges in this case, but 5 jumping lunges to get a very explosive kind of workload going. And then they would get their sled, they would push as fast as they can down. And I think they did 3 laps in this one. So sprint down, sprint back, sprint down again. I think normally because we have the rod strip in the back there that's longer, so I had them do 3 laps because I wanted a pretty good interval. So yeah, I think this video is 20 seconds long, right? For their entire thing that they took them to do was about 20 seconds. And then they would drag the block back to their partner, and then the person would go start their plate hops. So that person is dragging the sled back as they start. So they would do the exact same workout we just talked about, okay? So that's a really good way. It's very specific. It's not just doing circuits and getting tired for getting tired. It's very much based on a good energy system science. Time is we do a basic wellness or tracking journal, right? So we have these, this is actually a picture from the journal. On the top right-hand corner is here. So sleep quality, physical readiness, energy readiness, overall mood, and then a wellness score, which we're actually moving away from, but these 4 numbers are probably the most important anyways. So essentially 0 is the worst, 10 is the best. So for sleep, you say, what was the quality of your sleep on a 0 to 10 scale? 0 is terrible. 10 is the best sleep you ever had in your life. Soreness, how fresh do your muscles feel right now? 0 is they have 0, 0 readiness. I feel super duper sore. I couldn't do anything of my life dependent on it. Or whereas 10 is, I don't feel any soreness at all. I feel amazing. My legs feel ready to go, ready to rumble. I feel awesome, right? Energy. 0 is I am completely, toast. You got to peel me off the mat to get me going. 10 is I feel like I'm going to run through a wall. I'm super duper energetic, right? Mood. Crappy mood, it's a 0. I feel like crap. I just don't want to work out. I'm in a bad mood. 10 is I feel amazing. I'm super duper happy, right? So you add those scores up if you want to get a 40% score, but I think looking individually is probably more important. And you just see how these things trend over time. If an athlete is constantly, not or is in line with what you want to have communication about that. You also give them some blank journal space just for some extra notes. Are you worried? Are there injuries starting? Is there something you're like test or something stressing you out? Having some blank space to do that is really, really important. What we're looking for is that we know there's going to be some changes. Everyone's going to be different, but we're looking for patterns or standouts, right? So a consistently low sleep or consistently really crummy mood across like a week. Like what's going on there? You got to talk to the athlete. Hey, why are we sleeping like garbage? Why are you feeling like this mood is really, really low? Is there an injury starting? Is there something you're stressed about? Is it routine? Is it meets? Is it your family life? Like what's going on here? A consistent lack of energy is usually more related to sleep and also proper fueling for performance and hydration. Okay, also looking for the opposite pattern of something you don't expect. So say in training is supposed to be really, really tough for these couple weeks, but everyone's scores are through the roof. They feel great. They're not sore at all. They feel amazing, right? You actually don't want that. You want training to be challenging enough to be a little bit lower. So maybe in the middle, but not crushed. Same thing with the opposite. So maybe when you don't think the workouts are that hard, it's supposed to be an easy period and everybody is tanking, right? Everyone's scores are really, really low. Well, that's also raised for concern too about like, well, why do we all feel so terrible if we're trying to take more of a deload, right? Maybe you're not appreciating how hard the training programs actually are. The perception of what you think it's going to be versus the reality is different for the athletes. And so maybe if the whole team is feeling like that, you can take a step back and kind of acknowledge that a little bit. I found personally, as we kind of just wrap things up here, for tapers and deloads, this is something that a lot of people ask me about. When to taper, when to deload, what does that look like? There's a lot of different scientific literature here. There's a lot of different opinions on this. For me personally, I have found that for the smaller local meets, a 3-day taper is typically okay. So you're kind of maintaining the intensity, but you're pulling down the volume, like I said, like that Tuesday workout where you had 2 to 3 routines. And then Wednesday, it was 1 routine with corrections. And then you took a light day. They did a mock meet on Friday and you competed on Saturday. That's a 3-day taper, right? To kind of pull down the amount of volume you're doing, but just do the really high intensity pressure sets. For things that are much bigger, big meets like states or regionals or nationals, I actually try to do a full 7-day taper. So the thought process being is that you have so much time under your belt from doing these prep work that you can take a full week where you're kind of just doing pressure sets or just doing really high intensity work and building in more prehab, more recovery work to try to get their body as ready as humanly possible. So I think 5 to 7 days. Some people do a longer one if it's a really big meet, but I found that 5 to 7 days is pretty good. For travel meets, you have to really think about all the things that go into that. You can't just expect the taper to go super smooth because it might be a time zone change, it might be a sleeping change, it might be different equipment, it might be packing different food, different snacks, all that kind of stuff. So if you have someone who's traveling for a weekend meet and they're going to be doing their meets at 9 in the morning and they always work out at 5 p.m. at night, you have to try to think about that well in advance and try to see how can you prepare that athlete for it. Either maybe you can get a touch in the training hall, you can get there early, or just do some sort of morning workout before, or maybe they just start waking up and doing some sort of activity at that time to get their body ready for it, about 2 weeks before leading up to it. Okay. For a taper or deload, I personally like to lower the volume but maintain the intensity because we don't want to lose that really impressive power and speed and readiness. So we might reduce the sets or the reps slightly. We might reduce the overall volume or density, so take away maybe one chunk of the exercises that aren't super, super important. We might replace a medium day with a light day or a prehab, so the total volume throughout the week is lower. So there's different ways to do this. I typically just pull off some of the sets and reps and try to have the high quality effort of explosive power be really the goal. But I also will maybe change a couple of the days, so maybe not do another hard day of strength, but instead just do a lighter or prehab day like we just talked about. So the overall volume of the week is lower leading into the couple meets.